Hi everyone. Written sometime before 1770, this is a good example of the type of sonata written during the mid-1700s, and in terms of the sonata's development, its style and form is part of a middle period between the earlier binary form sonatas of composers such as Domenico Scarlatti and the fully developed sonatas of Haydn's own later works and those of other later composers. With this sonata, although Haydn uses the three-section form of later sonatas, his thematic usage and the modulatory scheme and overall length of the work are still yet to be fully developed. This work then provides an excellent model of an early three-section sonata. Before looking at Haydn's work, I'll first briefly discuss the basic three-section major key sonata form. The following description outlines an idealized version given in many textbooks of the basic sonata, but it must be remembered that a sonata is actually a procedure rather than a form. Therefore, although sonatas may typically follow the basic three-section division which I'll describe, there are variants of this form and variations of how elements are used within the form. With this in mind, the three sections of a basic sonata are the exposition, the development, and the recapitulation. In a major key sonata, the exposition begins with the first subject in the tonic key. It then moves through a transition or bridge to the dominant key where the second subject is presented. A cadence in the dominant then closes the exposition, which is then typically repeated. The development is essentially a modulatory section which may modulate through related keys and may use motifs or motivic fragments from the exposition. The development concludes on the dominant of the original key in preparation for the recapitulation. In the recapitulation, the first subject is presented again in the tonic key. The transitional material, however, now instead of taking the work to the dominant, remains in the tonic. The second subject also is presented in the tonic, and the work concludes in that key. Because of variations in how and where the elements of a sonata may be used, many analysts, rather than using the terms first and second subjects, prefer first and second harmonic areas. This preference reflects the fact that, particularly in earlier sonatas, while there is always a move from one key to another, there may not be a marked contrast between the first and second subjects, or the second subject may not be that melodic. For this reason, I will use first and second harmonic areas. Haydn's initial melody introduces the dotted note and triplet rhythmic motifs which will recur throughout this sonata. The sonata's first 6 bars prolong tonic harmony, with the right-hand melody essentially embellishing each degree of the tonic triad, and the 5th degree being prolonged through these bars and then moving to the 3rd over this G major chord. The short bridge sees G major's supertonic being altered to form an A dominant 7th chord, the dominant of the second harmonic area of D major. Through the essentially two-part texture of the second harmonic area, the parts often interact harmonically with thirds or sixths, and prolonged tonic and dominant chords in D major move the work to the final cadence in that key. Above this D major tonic arpeggio, the right-hand melody descends from D major's 5th degree to its 1st, and over the dominant arpeggio, a similar descent, now beginning from the 4th degree, moves to the 1st degree, which is here displaced to trace an octave descent, which returns to the 1st degree over the exposition's final D major chord. Unlike later sonatas, this development section essentially remains in the key of G major, with Haydn only briefly hinting at the key of C major with the inclusion of an F note over the subdominant prolongation. The development uses from the exposition both the triplets and dotted note motifs, and its two-part structure is essentially constructed around harmonic 6th and 3rd intervals, which through these bars are used over a series of chords moving from root position to first inversion, and here they move over a dominant pedal. As in the exposition's bridge, here G major's supertonic is again altered to form an A dominant 7th chord. Here, however, the dominant 7th is treated as a secondary chord to the dominant of G major, which leads the work to the recapitulation. The first harmonic area of the recapitulation is essentially identical to that of the exposition, although here Haydn uses octave Gs instead of harmonic thirds. To remain in the key of G major, once again the A dominant 7th of the bridge is treated as a secondary dominant to G major's dominant. The melodic material of the exposition's second harmonic area is then transposed to the tonic key. Haydn then repeats these bars in its octave descent to bring the work to its final cadence. Perhaps as a reflection of its status as an earlier sonata, the development and recapitulation are then repeated. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.